Hello and welcome back, and you know what day it is. You've come to this video precisely for the reason it's being made, and that is because it's Amazon Prime Day. For those who have followed the channel for a while, you know we use events like this and Black Friday to fundraise for the channel. We make a video like this where we don't enable any YouTube monetization, there's no YouTube ads, and we only recommend deals that we would personally buy, myself and Eddie here at NAS Compares. And every single promo that we're going to talk about today that we have found, I'll link below in the description. And using those links will result in a small commission coming to here at NAS Compares. So it allows us to keep doing what we do, but it also allows you to find the best deals without scratching around. Now, before we go any further, we've got to discuss the giant elephant in the room this year, and indeed the end of last year, and that is freaking hard drive prices. Because let's be honest, so many of you are looking at Prime Day and all the rest of the promos in between to find cheap hard drives. And let's face it, it has attacked the NAS market, it has affected the DAS market, it has affected the entire home lab market in general. And one of the things a lot of us are going to have to retailer our brains into, at least during Prime Day, and I would argue as far as Black Friday this year as well, if you need to buy storage this year, you're going to have to offset the cost of the savings on servers. Now, what I mean by that, all of the brands that I'm going to talk about today, and it's the majority of the NAS brands, by the way, have drastically dropped the price of their NAS. In some cases, as much as 30%. In one particular case, even higher. And with all of those price drops, you're going to have to use that saving to try and offset the increased cost of hard drives, because I found practically, but not zero, deals on hard drives this year, and SSDs for that matter. So a lot of the time you're going to have to find significant discounts in NAS and storage devices to offset the rising cost of hard drives, and then hopefully have some change left over. Hard drives right now, I remember when a 4 TB hard drive was $99 everywhere. It was $99. It was at £99 or £109 with tax, and now you're looking at $169 for a Seagate 4 TB, $237 for an 8 TB. I remember when they were $200. When we go to euros, that is apparently a saving. And again, technically, it is in the current marketplace a saving, but we need to keep in mind that not only have hard drives and SSD prices gone up astronomically, and therefore what we consider the bare minimum pricing is no longer the case, but also the majority of these so-called deals on hard drives, for the most part, are a nonsense in the grand scheme of things, because the likes of Seagate and WD do not need to reduce pricing because of demand, because of rising costs elsewhere. They have engaged less than ever on these promos. And again, not exclusively, there are some that are in the boundaries of a deal, but bear that in mind. And usually at this point, I would recommend using Camel, a website that allows you to track, analyze pricing data on any product page there. Make sure the age of the page is longer than a few months, otherwise it can be rigged. But every time I've tried to put in the deals for hard drives, let's go for one like this 4 TB drive here. And again, you can skip ahead if you already know all of this and all you want to do is the deals. The chapters are on the bottom. But as you'll see, a lot of the tracking information now is incredibly difficult to use on those hard drives. Now, beyond that, it's also worth highlighting that even though this is Amazon Prime Day, there are loads of promos running outside of Amazon. A lot of retailers, and particularly brands of the devices themselves, have started running their own in-house promos to compete with Amazon's Prime Day. They know people want to shop, but they're actually putting a lot of their best deals on their own websites during the same thing, calling them summer sales. Now, a lot of this is broken down in this article here, and I will be adding every one of today's offers that I find in the page. And although a lot of the offers that I'm scrolling past right now on screen are going to be featured in this video, all of these that I'm showing you now are on their brand's own websites, and sometimes the deals are pretty bloody incredible in terms of the saving. So I'll link to them below, and I'll link to them in this article here. I strongly recommend going through those if you've got your eye on a very specific device. Also, like every year, as we find the promos after this video, I'll enter all of these into our community page, and you can start adding your own deals as well. And then from here, this is where we find out a lot of the active deals and killing off the ones that aren't currently active. I'm recording this at 8:48 here in the UK. I think the US has just turned 1, 2 o'clock, depending on where you are, obviously. So there may be deals added throughout the course of the day. Again, UGREEN have running promos on pretty much everything, 10, 20% in some cases. Again, TerraMaster, another one running promos across the board, right the way through to their latest generation 425 Pro. GL.iNet, the majority of their devices are on promo, at least in the last 1 or 2 generations, your 24 to 26 gen. Beelink on both their NAS series and that lovely little X-Mate Pro are currently on promo at $199. UniFi Drive, the 2-bay mobile NAS that I love talking about, that is on promo as well. And again, if you're looking for hard drives, there will be some coming up later on. But let's make our way into some actual proper deals. Now, we start off here in the US. I just wanted to highlight immediately going back into GL.iNet, something I mentioned earlier on. GL.iNet, those offers that you see on their original website, not only can you take advantage of the same, or if not identical pricing here on Amazon Prime Day via Amazon.com, but on top of that, there is the odd little promo code floating around in here. Depending where you are and how you shop, there is actually some little savings and bundles and automated promo add-ons that you can take advantage of. I recommend giving them a look, simply because some of these actually cross the $100 threshold barely. I think the little PoE one, for example, is $90, but once you go up a little higher, particularly some of the travel routers like the Beryl, you're able to cross a line to get an extra couple of little promos over the $100 mark. I'll link to those below, but coupons like this one as well will appear. It's not for everyone, but don't be afraid to just quickly double check. If you use the link below and the promo code isn't there, go ahead and just search for GL.iNet and you'll be surprised, depending on your account, whether those promo codes appear. But again, going through the pick of the litter I'd go for there, the majority of them are 20, I think one of them's 25%. You've got the Slate 7, remember that's the non-6 gigahertz model. But the big news, let's be honest, for Amazon US is Synology. And I think this is something we're now going to see every Prime Day and Black Friday moving forward. And that is because of Synology's slight recounting of the consumer market and obviously sales being negatively affected by hard drive and SSD prices. Whereas in previous years, we've not seen this brand engage with promo deals on this level with Amazon, now they're going full hog. And if you were in the market for a Synology NAS, remember, ever since the DSM 7.3 update, you can use whatever drives you like, but we can talk about DSM 7.4 in another video. DSM 7.3, the majority of the 2025 series are now on offer in the disk station range. So whether that is the 5-bay that's got that scalability at 639, whether that is the 2-bay economy model for 2023 down to 159, or the expandable 2-bay, the Pro Series 2-bay, again, the majority of that range is currently on offer. And before we make our way forward into the next series, the 925 is probably the one that's going to be balancing everybody's books. That is the one that's available at $511. Again, that is arriving with 4 gig of ECC memory as well, something to bear in mind. But once again, although you can use any hard drive or SSD for the general storage, bear in mind the M.2 NVMe at the base, there are some restrictions still in place. Moving forward, we'll carry on past those. UGREEN, something we already talked about there in the introduction. This is that brand new GT Series 4-bay. That is the one with the 4-core, 8-thread integrated graphics AMD CPU. Arriving with 8 gig of memory, and this does support ECC. It's also got 2 10 gig NICs, and that is 527. And you better believe I'm looking forward to seeing that versus that on a video very, very soon. I'm sure someone watching this will get there before me. Good luck to you. But again, 527 for that NAS is an absolute banger. Moving forward from that, TerraMaster, back to those. This is the F4425 Plus. That's got 2 5 gig network ports there. It's got 16 gig of DDR5, and it's got that Intel N150 efficient CPU. That's rocking out at 519. That's the one that's got 4 hard drive bays and 3 M.2 NVMe bays. And remember, dual 5 gig networking there. 519, that is a Billy bargain for that kind of hardware. Moving forward from there, one of the few deals, and again, I'm using the word deal with massive bunny ears, would be the Samsung 1TB 9100 Pro. So that is their Gen 5 SSD there. It is 206. Again, that is the cost of storage at the moment. So if your back's up against the wall and you need a Gen 5 SSD for one rig or another, this is probably the best Gen 5 SSD deal I could find. But again, I use the word deal very loosely. And as you scale up through the different capacities, you can make a saving more and more. As you can see, the percentage drop there getting bigger. But ultimately, even at that 2 TB at $349, it is only a deal in the 2026 cents. So if it's not essential, don't bother. Next up, we've got a portable drive. Portable drive for external connectivity there. And what you'll find is the majority of external drives, the going rate used to be about $100 for a 5 terabyte 2.5-inch hard drive. Now that's gone. That's non-existent these days, notwithstanding the hard drive price increases. Also, because Seagate are just not committing to producing those units anywhere near as much as they used to. So this is probably the best offer I could find currently at the time of recording for an external hard drive for your backups there. And again, that's one that's running on USB bus power. You can't shuck this drive, by the way. It does have the USB pre-soldered to the drive itself. So unless you want to, get your soldering iron out, I wouldn't bother. But again, the offer is there. You can scale up to 5 TB, but again, then you're going up to $139. Moving forward from there back to GL.iNet. The reason I highlight this with their KVM, something we already half talked about, these are the two pick of the litter from GL.iNet for me here, simply because they're two of their best products that I've used in a long time, and they are both looking at substantial price decreases, even though they are mere months old. So if you aren't backing that crowdfunding campaign right now for the GL.iNet Comet Q, which, by the way, the Comet X is part of that crowdfunding, then these are definitely worth a looking there if you've been watching this whole mobile router gig or KVM gig and wanted to get involved. And the last thing I'm going to add, and this is really just for everyone else, not even for me, and Eddie will hate this, by the way. If Eddie's watching this, I'm really sorry. I know you hate me doing this. This is the Minisforum N5 AI NAS. This is one that's rocking out with an insane CPU. It's got tons of storage. It's got 10 gig. It's got it's got the works, and it's got the OS SSD inside, and it's $895. This is a grand of anyone's money currently in 2025, and there is a slight price drop on the Air series, I should say, but not as much. But the reason Eddie's going to hate this is we don't have any kind of affiliation with Newegg, so if you buy this, we get nothing. So after this video, do know that after this is published, Eddie's going to give me a phone call and give me a right bollocking. Next up, we're going to go to Amazon.co.uk. But before we do so, we have to take a very quick sideline into what I'm going to call Amazon Europe. Because the reason we're going to be focusing almost exclusively on Amazon.co.uk is because most of the promos for the whole of Europe are the same. There's obviously inflation and deflation and currency conversions there to factor in mind, Great British Pound versus Euro, and of course all of the prices, unlike the US, include the tax. But I'm going to just focus on the UK because the promos are the same. All the links below that you'll find and all the links on NAS Compares will auto redirect you to your own Amazon region in Europe. So there's no point retreading ground and making this video already longer than it is to show you the same products in different regions. The only ones I could find that were particularly notable that weren't available in the whole of Europe were the following. And again, you can look through for yourself. You'll see the same damn products once we go through the UK stuff. But the only three that I found that were of note that were separate were this one, a 16 TB external hard drive, which I've read mixed reports online that it is shuckable. So if you want to buy it and then maybe return it, if it's not shuckable, be careful. Don't remove any screws that will screw up your warranty. This 16 TB for €317 then. Again, that includes the tax. And again, that's a decent enough little price drop. Again, it's a good deal for 2026. Moving forward from that is the N2 series from LinkStation. Again, we talked about this a while ago, and it got a real glowing video from Jeff Gearing when he did his great little deep dive on it. This is 10 gig network, 6 SSD slots, and that's 4 M.2 NVMe and 2 SATA 2.5-inch SSD slots inside there. Rocking an N100, so that's the Alder Lake 4-core, 4-thread processor with 16 gig of pre-attached memory there. So this is a great example of what I was talking about in the intro. It's not a huge price drop, but it's actually a relatively cost-effective device as it is. And what you're getting there is enough of a decrease in price and hardware. And remember, that includes an unraid license as well, that you can use that saving to offset the cost of the drives. Yes, they're SSDs that are going to be more expensive. This is a great example of that logic I mentioned in the introduction. And finally, for that external drive there in Europe, I found this one 35% off at $109, and that's a 4 TB drive. So comparable to the US drive I mentioned earlier, but bear in mind again, because this is a European offer, that includes the tax. So once you slice off that 20% tax that we have, it's actually a really good deal for that. And there are other drives which you can then factor in, because remember, the US price didn't have the tax there. I don't know why you guys do that. But let's cycle back into the UK offers and drive through them. So here we go for an external 3.5-inch drive there. Again, mixed reports on the shockability, and I hate using that phrase, I feel dirty. On this, it is an external USB drive docking station there, and that's £178, again, including the tax, for 8 terabytes there. You can scale it down to the 2.5-inch drives, but that's probably the best offer I found for those. Again, if you are curious, if we just open that up and we just literally look at hard drives, you will find the same damn story, even if we just go at Seagate and we go to like WD. And bear in mind, by the way, in some cases, WD 4TB drives are about 10 to £15 or dollars difference, but there just isn't any promos because they don't feel the need to. And although you're seeing a 1TB drive here for this one, bear in mind some of these have no shuckability whatsoever, and a lot of it is to do with the mechanics that are built in, like the hard drive encryption engine built in on a software level. But next up, this is for those that were looking at that link station, but also other people as well. A 2TB SATA SSD there, 169. I'm well aware that a year ago this was not on offer, but unfortunately in the current climate kind of is. There are other 4TB options out there, but they are from outlets that don't really have a history in the world of data storage. And if you're looking at NAS, you're looking at 24/7, you're looking at durability and stability. I wouldn't recommend going for an SSD for core mission critical storage unless you trust the name. So bear that in mind. Next up, WD Red for the NAS drives. NAS SSD, again, look at that price difference between these two SSDs there. But that's because this WD drive here is designed with the higher durability factor. And again, I would maybe call that 10 to 12% drop. I think that's a bit of a lie there, WD, but it is still a relatively good offer for the drive in 2026. Next up, another SSD there. This is a 500 gig. Again, 89 doesn't seem like a good offer, but bear in mind that is a relatively well-trusted SSD in the grand scheme of things. Some of you may have also noticed that at no point have I talked about the SanDisk Extreme external SSDs. If you're new to the channel, it's because multiple times over the years they have had, stability failings, durability failings, smart data wrong, and ultimately I won't recommend them anymore. So although you will see SanDisk appear a lot in every single region of Amazon during Prime Day, I wouldn't trust them. Just because until they actually show willing that they know they effed up, I'm not going to recommend, particularly their external SSDs, of course. Moving forward, we've got another M.2 NVMe here. This is £209 for a 2TB SSD, but bear in mind that is a Gen 4 series performance drive. ByWin is actually connected, I believe, to Apacer, and they're also connected to a few other legacy well-known brands, the old IBM sort of age, not quite that old, so they are trustworthy. Even though if you've not heard of them, trust me, they have history, they have legacy. Next up, back to TerraMaster, the best European TerraMaster deal I could find, rather than a 20% of the others. This is 25%. This is that 8 M.2 NVMe flash NAS there. Again, rocking out with an i3 8-core 8-thread processor with 16 gig of DDR5 memory, delivered via SODIMM, by the way. So it is removable and upgradable, although be aware of the limitations of that processor overhead, and it has 10 gig networking as well. Each one of those bays is at 3x1 speed, but nonetheless it does mean that you can downgrade down to a Gen 3x4 SSD perhaps, a little bit cheaper, and scale up. Again, 2026, not a bad offer in the context. Next up, the Beelink we already talked about from their own pages, but it's worth highlighting that this is a device that for a while actually shot up in price quite substantially, largely due to the pre-soldered RAM. That's 16 gig alongside the Twin Lake M15 series CPU. And there's recently been the upscaled version of this, the dual hard drive variation, and coming soon a larger 4-bay hard drive array version there. But with 6 M.2 NVMe slots, dual 0.5 gig networking, and frankly, one of the most popular pre-built DIY flash NASs in the market, $299 is pretty bloody reasonable for that. And if you want to scale the price down, you can go for the N95 version, which is largely the same, but with less RAM. And the cost of RAM these days, and particularly the scale up of processor, just spend the other $50 and get the better version, frankly. And again, you can go for other variations like this one here that's arriving with a 64 gig eMMC inside there rather than going for a flash storage module. But that's the pick of the litter for me. Moving forward, back to UGREEN, you can see that that offer we mentioned earlier on with the GT series is universally available. And again, dual 10 gig, 8 gig of RAM, a 4-core, 8-thread integrated graphics AMD CPU, and support of ECC memory at 469 quid, including the tax. That is a banger of a deal. And by the way, if we go back into that page, have they done the good service of allowing us to see the 2-bay? Because the 2-bay, it's not available in the UK yet. That's a shame. The 2-bay is a 2-bay system, exactly the same specs, right the way down to the dual 10 gig networking on a 2-bay. And that's rocking out at $399 right now. So go to UGREEN's official site or find it on the Amazon in your region if it's available. And carrying on with UGREEN, you've got their economy 4-bay. That's the one that's got an RK, technically 8-core chip. It's actually a 4+4 chip and 8 gig of RAM at 295. Low power use, which in this climate could be useful, but also low impact. And finally, going back to GL.iNet, the better offer, I would argue, on the European side of things is the Comet Pro, because the Comet Pro there is rocking out at just 138. And that's the one that supports Wi-Fi. It's got the touchscreen there on the front, actually real-time displays, and it's also got HDMI in and out, which is critical if you want a KVM that you can set up and forget. It's also got the passcode, two-factor authentication, 64 gig of storage, no, 32 gig, I should say, of storage inside, Tailscale, 0-tier, the works. And moving over to the cheaper end, we can go to the PoE, just for comparative distance, at 87, with a slight increase on the discount there as well. And not to be forgotten, QNAP, this is the only deal I could find. So unless they're going to rock them out later in the day, this is their economy 2-bay at just $199. Bear in mind, this is a few years old at this point. I think it's crossed the 2-year line. So this is just for file back-end target backup. I'd barely even use this for multimedia at this point, particularly as the brand seems to be erring more towards their ZFS software. But as a simple backup target for $199, it's actually pretty darn good value. And once again, we're going to play the game Let's Annoy Eddie the Web Guy there in the background at NAS Compares, because we are not connected to Balicon. We get no commission from this. But I just wanted to also highlight, again, including that, $431 for a 16 terabyte Toshiba there, the N300 series. It's a 2026 offer. I like it. Eddie, I'm sorry, I wanted to include it. I'll even link it below. He'll be furious. And finally, we close out on Canada and Australia. I don't know why I always put these two together in my head. Maybe it's the whole British mad colonialism thing. Sorry about that, everyone. We were going through a bit of a moment back then. But Canada, I would argue, this is the first time I have seen not only deals that I would consider deals in Canada, but that I've seen QNAP go so effing bananas. Now, as we scroll through them, some of the things aren't on offer, as mentioned, like the 2-bay there, but the ones that are, they're not incredible, but it's the first time I've seen not only QNAP take this sales event so seriously, but also that they've actually done some meaningful price drops. And I don't know if this is their device is not selling as well there, or they're clearing older stock, because some of these I do know we talked about at Computex, some stuff being launched. But some of these discounts are actually really good. Bear in mind, this is Canadian dollar. I don't believe they include the price of the tax. If they do, do correct me about that below. But there's actually some really, really good price drops for Canada. And that includes the accessories as well. So if you are in the market for NAS stuff and you were looking at some of the QNAP stuff, some of these are actually really banging devices that you can take advantage of. And again, even when you factor in the conversions, I would still argue that these are legitimate. Now, moving over to Australia, normally at this point I would turn the camera upside down, but I think the joke is a bit trite at this point. So, you know, just turn your phone upside down or something. We've got the UGREEN offers that we've already talked about, but that is one of the things that's really surprised me, because UGREEN have been really restrained on supplying a lot of their devices, quote, globally. In Australia, I make a joke about it in my videos alongside the Bay numbers, that Australia always seems to miss out. So that was why I was kind of surprised when I've seen some offers for Australia, and yes, this is the economy 4-bay, but that's actually not a terrible price for you Aussies to enjoy there, and that does ship to New Zealand as well, by the way, I checked. But although not the entire UGREEN range is available, there are promos on the ones that are. And alongside the 2-bay being on offer in some of these bundle deals, I have my doubts about that. They've just combined 2 of these. At the very least, you can get hold of that DXP Pro 4-bay there. So they've skipped the Plus and the standard model then gone straight into the Pro with the i3 processor inside there. Not an incredible price, but given you couldn't even get the sodding thing for a while, that's not too bad. In terms of SSDs, there are price drops there. That is that 2 TB drive there, rocking out at $100. Oh, sorry, not 2 TB, it's 480. Ignore me, that's a terrible offer. We're killing that live. Next up, we've got the Minisforum N5 Pro there. Again, for some reason, Minisforum have always done some pretty good offers for Australia, and this is probably one of the latest ones. Again, do factor in the currency conversion, but it's not a terrible price for that system there. Remember, that isn't the Air or the Standard. That is the Pro Series Beast model. And finally, as far as expansion drives go, here's a nice little price drop for a 20 TB drive there. Again, mixed reports on shucking this one. There was only one that I ever found that had a really good, solid, consistent proof on that. But this is that USB external drive there at 20 TB. Not fantastic, but not a terrible offer for you guys. So I'll be tailing out today's video. Again, I'll be uploading more offers, not only the deals we talked about today, onto the original deal prices there and the community tab. But if you guys want to throw deals in there as well, use your own affiliated links if you choose to get your own commission. Knock yourself out, just stick it in there. But apart from that, this has really been Prime Day 2026. I just want to end today's video, just a quick shout out. I'm just going to call him WW. It's someone we've talked about here on the channel before a little while ago. We also featured him on NAS home pages. Again, I will respond to your email shortly. I just wanted to give you a quick shout out. I hope you're watching this, WW. I know you're going through a real rough time of it at the moment. Again, we've talked about him here on the channel before with regards to trying to find a kidney donor, and he recently got further bad news via a diagnosis of cancer. So again, just a direct shout out to you. One, mate, awful business. There's nothing we can say. We'll try and link to you more in what we're doing. And secondly, for the rest of you watching this, appreciate your days. Appreciate what's around you guys, because some people are having a rough time of it. And let's face it, it's not a great year for a lot of people right now, but some people are having it worse than others. So do me a favor, tomorrow morning when you wake up, everyone, appreciate, okay? But thank you so much for watching again. Here I've gone really, how more, saccharine we've ended on, but it's true. Make sure the links are in below if you want to take advantage of those. So again, link to all the offers, the pages there, support what we do. This video doesn't have any ads on it for YouTube, and we have only recommended offers that we would personally buy. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you next time.